We're right into summertime, and I'm just working on some orphan block quilts. I get quite a few orphan blocks from people who get tired of making the things that they're making, and I really like using all kinds of different fabrics that I don't have to buy, and it keeps me occupied, and I love making quilts. So this was one project that I did this summer. These blocks were all made um, quite a while ago, and I just put them together. I was able to put them in a form so that the greens went this way and reds, purples. So I had some kind of a plan to put them together so that they looked like they belong together. They do belong together. They're all the same background fabric. So one person made all of these and gave them to me to quilt together. And this will be a donation quilt. And there were a few blocks left over, so all I did on the back was this row across the center, used up the extra pieces of the fabric that came with those blocks, and I put a bright yellow piece of fabric on the top and the bottom, and gray around the outside, and quilted with a diagonal stitch using my walking foot. How easy is that? It took me not too much longer than 2 afternoons to sew the piece together and decide what to do with the backing. It was easy. So here's another one. And this particular bunch of orphan blocks were a bit more work to put together. Some of them, the blocks were too small, and I had to add a little border around it. Some of the blocks are very pieced. Some of the pieces in the middle have got 2 or 3 seams because there was very little of this feature fabric left over to make it look like they belong together. And some of these pieces that I made to fill up the side are all pieced as well and quite different. And this one needed a piece across the end because it was too small. So it took a bit of finagling to get this one to go together, but it's going to be 40 inches by 60 inches, and it'll be a nice lap quilt to give us a donation. Now for the backing for this one, because it's all triangles, it needs a good sturdy backing, and that's why I didn't do a quilt as you go project. I have made it in one piece, and because it's small, it's easy to do it in one piece. And for the backing, I've got a variety of bits and pieces from my stash that I can use to put together, and I'll find some pieces that are big enough to join maybe 2 or 3 bits together. I don't have any extra blocks from the front to finish this as a backing, but I can put something together in some kind of an order to just make a backing for this one. But that's quite a colorful and quite a bright quilt, and it'll be fun to make a backing for it. So that's my job for today. So I usually just put the quilt on the wall and put the pieces up on top of it so I know there'll be a seam allowance and coverage. So that one piece of green in the center is a good central block. Then that maroon color around the outside, I just cut 7-inch pieces, 7-inch wide strips, and they'll cover the width, but then I'll just have to find another piece of fabric to either put a piece at the top or a piece at the bottom, or split the difference and put something at the top and the bottom And that will be a nice backing for that quilt. Very serviceable, good fabric. Make a nice picnic blanket or a lap quilt. And that's what I'm going to do with that one. So I'm just going to sew them together and then find out how much I need to add to the top and the bottom once the seam allowances are on. So in about 15 minutes, it was easy enough to sew 3 pieces of fabric together to make a piece long enough for the backing. And I really think I'm going to use that dark green that I put on the 2 ends as the binding because I have enough of that left over. And I'll get that all the binding made right away. And then I can just put the binding on the outside. Here's the finished quilt. I diagonally stitched it together with a walking foot. That's my favorite way to put quilts together when they're this size. And that's it.